हेलो गाइस, वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ सफलता टॉक। मैं हूं आपका होस्ट अमित शर्मा और टुडे वी हैव विद अस मिस्टर सुवीर शर्मा। ही इज अ सक्सेसफुल लॉयर एंड entrepreneur and he's a founding member of a firm called Synergy Partners.
Good morning, Amit. How are you?
Hello Suvir, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Amit. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are very much audible.
Right. Thank you for giving such a nice introduction. And good morning to all. And I'm here to share my experience with regard to my career span, with regard to the start which I had after having passed the common law and admission test in the year 2009. And बस उससे रिलेटेड आपसे बातचीत होगी इस दौरान.
So Suvir ji, हम start करते हैं. We'll start by talking about your family background, your schooling, like what kind of culture you had in when you were in the 10th or 12th class. Let's start by talking about it.
Right. So I hail from the state of UP, and my father has been a civil engineer all his life. He was with the state government and later with the central government. My mother is a homemaker, and my elder brother, who could be said to be an engineer turned businessman. And in my entire family, if we talk about the entire extended family as well, so Amitji, no, if I would say that there was no lawyer before me in my genes, then I would not be wrong to say that. So I am a first generation lawyer, and it's been quite a journey of 7 years that I have, and I would be not saying that I have achieved everything, but whatever I have achieved is basically a lot of, credit would go to my college. And like you mentioned, I graduated from National Law Institute, University, Bhopal. I basically entered, started my graduation in 2009 and graduated in the year 2014.
So Suviji, as you mentioned that you are the first generation lawyer, right? So just wanted to like who inspired you to get into the law, because it is not a usual choice to make.
Correct,
What
correct.
was the inspiration behind it?
Amit, you are correct to say that. And in these 10 years, if we calculate, from the year 2009, where I got first introduced to the field of law, it's now been a common household career option. Like earlier, engineering and MBBS or MBA used to be and still are the best career options for a middle class child. But for the past 10 or 8 years or so, law has also been one of the career options for for the middle class household. And as far as my interaction or my inclination towards law is concerned, then I would be not be exaggerating, but for the fact that I was an average student in school, and the fact that I didn't aspire to do anything, which the larger part of the society was doing, which is science, taking science, or going into biology and anything that kind of made me inquisitive to understand that what all options are there apart from just taking maths and going into engineering, or just going taking science after your high school and just going into becoming a doctor. And that search made me draw down to certain options. Not that law was the only career option which I had in my mind, but it was one of them. And working towards it, the entrance exam and everything made me, go through one of the best law schools in India. And
So Suvir,
although I took a drop, because I will tell you in the later part, the difference between the coaching or the, entrance coaching which people take in the field of engineering or MBBS, and how is it different in law, and what was the reason that I took a drop and ended up in one of the best law schools in India.
so Suvir, as you mentioned that you were having and you were considering other option as well besides the law. What was
Hmm.
those option that you were having in the mind at that time?
See, I was after my high school, I was a commerce student. So
Okay.
BCom honors from Delhi University is one such area which I was looking, because as you also have a basic understanding, there is a 5-year integrated undergrad law course available with the law schools. Apart from that, there are regular universities like Delhi University and other universities in all the parts of India, across India, which
Mm-hmm.
in which there is a 3-year law degree, which is done after you have done a graduation. So that's
Okay.
also part of your undergraduation, but that's a double graduation. If you do a 3-year law course
Mm-hmm.
after you've done your graduation. So law was also always at the back of the mind,
Mm-hmm.
because it was at that time, 2009 May, it was one of the budding kind of professions, and
Okay.
people had started looking towards it, because उससे पहले क्या होता था, on a lighter note, ये बोला जाता था कि जो कुछ भी नहीं कर पाता वो लॉ कर लेता है.
Yeah, you're very much true.
बट पिछले 10 साल में ये पर्सपेक्टिव
Definitely.
बदला है,
Mm-hmm.
और ये सही दिशा में ही बदला है मेरे
Mm-hmm.
हिसाब से. और आज की तारीख में आप देखिए, एनएलयूज की गिनती भी बढ़ती जा रही है, और जो प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज हैं वो भी हैं अपनी जगह पे, और कई प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटीज जैसे जिंदल ग्लोबल लॉ स्कूल बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं, एट पार विद एनएलयूज कर रहे हैं. But I will tell you the both, the pros and the cons of being in a non-NLU college,
Mm-hmm.
and the benefits which NLU has provided me for just uplifting my career.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So, Suviji, as you mentioned, like as far as this law career is concerned, when I was in my 10th class back in 2012 or 13 sometime, I wasn't aware of the law at all because
Hmm.
I didn't have any counseling there. I wasn't aware of any, and I didn't have the environment to get to know more about the law. तो जब
Hmm.
आपने ये decision लिया that you wanted to pursue law, did you have any counseling at that time, or it was just a research that you did and you were getting attracted towards this law? For any particular
It
reason?
was, I mean, purely research based, and then I found a few coaching institutes. Uh, uh, at that time, if you talk about 12 years back,
Mm-hmm.
then there was just Career Launcher, which had that LST career, dedicated coaching towards entrance exam. And
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you that this common law admission test CLAT was introduced in 2008 only, when I completed my 12th,
Okay.
and before that individual exams were conducted by the existing national law universities, be it
Mm-hmm.
National Law India University and NLSIU Bangalore, Nalsar Hyderabad, or
Okay.
NUJS Kolkata, NLIU Bhopal. So and post in the list of NLUs right now, as we see, there are 12 or 13 odd NLUs
Mm-hmm.
जो नए भी खुले हैं. तो post NLIU, whatever the colleges are, they they had just started, maybe if you talk about Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University,
Mm-hmm.
Lucknow. So it started somewhere around early 2000, and they were also conducting their own exam. But within a few years, this concept of common law admission test was introduced, and every other college other than National Law University Delhi, NLU Delhi, which is still conducting its separate exam, is done by both for undergrad and for post graduation is done by CLAT. Yeah. So it was, coming back to your question, it was purely research based, and it was such that if someone wants to is confused with their path of career, because in India still there are two career options for a common middle class household, that engineering or medical, that's it. But i- the parents also have to realize, the child also has to realize that if they think that the market for or the area of career such as engineering or MBBS has saturated, or they have very less chances, or they lack interest, then they should go for other career options. And right now in the world of information technology, you can get information about anything and everything under the sun.
Yeah.
So it used to be difficult, when you did your 12th, or I completed my 12th, but right now it is very easy.
It's very easy.
So if
And
you look for it.
yeah, this is very much true, सुवीर जी. आप बता रहे हैं ऐसा, जब मैं 12th में था तो I didn't have anything like thing called career counseling.
Hmm.
What I was told by the family members that you should get into the engineering, and I didn't even have any idea like what this engineering is all about.
Correct.
बट मुझे क्या लगता है, जैसा आप बता रहे हैं एकदम सही है कि अब बच्चों के पास काफी सारे ऑप्शन हैं. दे आर मोर इनटू द एक्सप्लोरिंग थिंग, दे आर एक्सप्लोरिंग डिफरेंट थिंग्स अदर देन दिस डॉगमा दैट वी आर हैविंग.
Correct.
बस इंजीनियरिंग कर लें आप एमबीबीएस कर लें. सो दिस इज समथिंग दैट वी आर मेकिंग प्रोग्रेस हियर.
Right.
Suvir ji, I would like to mention this thing to our viewers since we are live on YouTube and Facebook. तो गाइज अगर आपको कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछना हो तो आप कमेंट में डाल सकते हैं. आई विल बी पुटिंग योर क्वेश्चन टू द सुवीर जी एंड ही विल बी हैप्पी टू आंसर यू एंड विल बी हैप्पी टू हेल्प यू आउट इन दिस सेक्शन ऑफ दिस डिस्कशन ऑफ द क्लैट. तो सुवीर जी, अपन नेक्स्ट चीज के ऊपर बात करते हैं. जैसे आपने बताया कि आपने 2009 में क्लैट अपीयर किया था, राइट? सो यू हैव
मैंने
टेकन द
अमित सबसे पहली बार 2008 में भी दिया. उसके बाद मेरा नहीं हो पाया, तो फिर मैंने 2009 में फिर से दिया. और 2009 में after a drop I got through it, and in 2009 I started my graduation in NLIU Bhopal.
Okay, so you must have appeared for 12th in 2008, right?
Correct.
Okay. तो सुवीर जी, जब आपने 2008 में जब आप 12th के साथ में क्लैट की तैयारी कर रहे थे, तो व्हाट वाज द थिंग दैट यू वर हैविंग इन योर माइंड, लाइक बिकॉज़ आपका स्कूल भी था उस टाइम पे. यू वर सपोज्ड टू गो टू द स्कूल्स फॉर 8 or 9 hours, then you are supposed to go for the coachings for the CLAT. So how did you manage all these things?
I'll just share that experience with you. So basically, there is a huge distinction between the course or the curriculum covered in the entrance exam for law than if we talk about engineering or medical. Because and here I am not trying to say that it's much more difficult than other things, and other areas are just a cakewalk, nothing like that. But it's a common logic that in engineering entrance exam or a medical entrance exam, you have the same subjects as taught by your school in 11th and 12th. But unfortunately, and more challengingly, in law there used to be 5 odd subjects at that time, which used to be English, general knowledge, mathematics, legal reasoning, and logical reasoning. And if you talk about English, then it was all comprehension. Mathematics used to be basic mathematics and not of 12th or 11th. And GK used to be anything or everything under the sun. And then the 2 subjects remaining are logical reasoning and legal reasoning, which are altogether a different ball game, and they have not been taught in any of the schools ever. So what I'm trying to say is that in engineering and medical, you have at least this leeway or the benefits that whatever you are taught in school, an upgraded form or a step higher than that is being taught to you in the coaching institutes. But in law, it is the entirely different thing, because whatever you get taught in the school, something entirely different is being taught to you in your coaching institute. So to manage a balance over it along with your 12th is kind of gets very difficult, and that was the reason. And another reason was that until 2007 December. And you can imagine the first CLAT took place in May 2008. Until December 2007, there was no clarity as to what will happen. And this CLAT, the concept of CLAT was introduced sometime in the beginning of 2008, if I'm not being, if I'm recalling it correctly. And all of us were in a dilemma, confusion, कि ये होगा क्या, एंट्रेंस एग्जाम हमेशा की तरह सेपरेट होंगे हर लॉ स्कूल के, या एक कंबाइंड टेस्ट होगा. और वो जो कंबाइंड टेस्ट होगा उसका किसी कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट को कोई एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है. अब तो खैर इतने सारे हो चुके हैं तो सबको एक्सपीरियंस हो गया है. जैसे उनको अपने इंडिविजुअल एग्जाम्स का हर कॉलेज के होता था. जैसे हमको पढ़ाया जाता था कि एनयूजेएस साइंस के बारे में ज्यादा पूछता है, तो साइंस के क्वेश्चंस जीके में और उस जगह ज्यादा आएंगे. एनएलएस बैंगलोर का कुछ और कॉन्सेप्ट होता था. आई एम नॉट बीइंग एबल टू करेक्टली रिकॉल. एनएलयू भोपाल का स्ट्रेसिंग पॉइंट कुछ अलग होता था. बट ऑन द अदर हैंड क्लैट का किसी को एक्सपीरियंस नहीं था कि क्या होगा ये. और उसी की वजह से थोड़ा सा एक सेटबैक भी था. और पहला क्लैट एनएलएस बैंगलोर के जिम्मे था बनाने के लिए, एंड इन दैट आई कुड नॉट सक्सीड. बट नेवरदलेस इंसान एक ठोकर खा के झटका खा के ही सीखता है. तो देन इट मेड मी स्ट्रॉन्गर, and although I was getting private universities here in Delhi and other places, but I made it in my mind that I would want to go to a national law school only. And I picked myself up and then again started. But the approach and everything, because पहले चीज ये है कि मेरा 12th नहीं था, it was just a drop year. So from that perspective I was free. There were no boards, nothing. Secondly, by the experience of the coaching institutes for having being taught by the coaching institute all throughout the year along with 12th, I got a fair bit of idea that when do I have to attend classes and when do I have to just not to join the regular classes, and what do I have to do.
Okay.
So please, sorry.
Like, to talk to you about these two things in detail. The first is GK and the second is English. Before getting into this, I'd like to, say thank you to our viewers who are live on the YouTube. Aman, thank you so much for joining us. Ramjan, Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to all of you. Please let us know if you have any question. Drop us on the comment. I'll pick up the question, and I'll definitely ask to the Suvir ji, and he will be happy to answer you out and help you out with this thing. So Suvir ji, let's talk about these two things in detail, the GK and English. GK के लिए आपने किस तरीके से तैयारी करी? Like, is there any newspaper, any routine that you were following? Because it requires persistency and consistency, right?
Right.
As you mentioned, it's all about under the sun.
Yeah. So as reiterated by you, that GK was such that anything under the sun could be asked. So what I did was that I took the help of reading daily newspapers. उससे दो चीज होती थी. एक तो आपका इंग्लिश कॉम्प्रिहेंशन बढ़ता था. The comprehensive power, the comprehension power, basically. By comprehension I mean that आप कितनी तेज एक आर्टिकल इंग्लिश का पढ़ के और उससे मतलब निकाल सकते हैं, and you could answer the questions based on that particular paragraph or an article or something. Because ये मैं क्यों बोल रहा हूँ, because ये जीके के साथ साथ आपका, क्योंकि करंट अफेयर्स पे होते हैं आर्टिकल्स, बेसिकली एडिटोरियल्स, इंग्लिश डेली न्यूज़पेपर, तो आपकी इंग्लिश भी बेटर होगी, द कॉम्प्रिहेंशन, as well as your GK will also be built, because GK is two-folded, the historical GK and the present current affairs. So अगर आपको करंट अफेयर्स से या जो अभी चल रहा है करंटली में उससे करना है, so the newspapers I used to follow was the Indian Express and the Hindu. The Hindu because of the fact that जो उसमें लिटरेरी आर्टिकल्स आते थे, जो एडिटोरियल्स आते थे, those were literary wise, literature wise, much more rich than any other newspaper, and they still are. It's one of the oldest newspapers in the country, and usually common parlance में हम लोग ये सुनते हैं कि जो UPSC aspirants होते हैं वो ज्यादा पढ़ते हैं. That is because of the fact that the richness of the English language which is there, and the more you practice, the more perfect you get, and the more difficult things you practice, then it will be much more easier for you to understand the simpler language. If something is being written in much more simpler language, so that is how I used to do that. Secondly, as far as GK is concerned, then in my drop year, I did not do any coaching. I just followed newspapers. I just followed the basic material which was given to me by my coaching institute the last year in 2008, and had joined a lot of coaching institutes wherein their test series used to be conducted regularly. First of all, so as to match my timing, that how much timing I'm giving to one subject or one one part of the question paper, and secondly, to have a question bank, because if you talk about GK particularly, then you need to have a question bank. By question bank, what I mean is that you need to have as much as questions you have answered or you have seen, because of the fact that you never know कि coaching में test में CLAT में क्या आ जाए और क्या नहीं आए. So जितने आप questions answer करेंगे उतना ही आपके लिए easy होगा कि आप उससे करें, ज्यादा से ज्यादा questions अपने पास इकट्ठे करें. और एक चीज और बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है जो हमें कोचिंग में भी सिखाई जाती थी और मैंने खुद से भी एक्सपीरियंस करी, कि एक क्वेश्चन से 4 और क्वेश्चन निकलते हैं. बिकॉज if you talk about particularly GK, because in GK the 4 options which are given, so I'm not going into the basic structure of the CLAT paper, which is basically objective questions only, where 4 options are there and you need to mark the correct option in the OMR sheet. That's the basic structure of CLAT. उसमें जो गलत 3 ऑप्शंस होते थे उनका भी कुछ एक महत्व होता था, एक उनकी भी एक रीजन होता था वो क्यों दिए गए हैं, so as to also confuse the aspirant. But the other reason was that they were somewhere closely related to such question, or they made a question in themselves.
Okay.
तो जैसे अगर हम बात करें, अभी 26 जनवरी आ रही है, तो अगर एक सिंपल सा क्वेश्चन हो कि 26 रिपब्लिक डे कब होता है, और अगर 4 ऑप्शन हैं उसमें 26 जनवरी, 15 अगस्त, 2 अक्टूबर और 25 दिसंबर, तो हम सबको पता है कि 26 जनवरी है. बट अब 15 अगस्त को क्या है? इंडिपेंडेंस डे है. 2 अक्टूबर को क्या है? गांधी जयंती है और लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी की जयंती है. और 25 दिसंबर को हमारे अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी का जन्मदिन है और क्रिसमस भी है. तो इन चीजों, इन क्वेश्चन ऑप्शन से आपको क्या क्वेश्चंस मिले और उसके सही जवाब वो ऑप्शन थे, तो वो भी आपके क्वेश्चन बैंक में जुड़ जाते हैं. सो कमिंग बैक टू द पॉइंट कि आपके पास जितने क्वेश्चन होंगे, ये तो मैंने बहुत आसान शब्दों में आपको और बहुत आसान एग्जाम्पल देके एक मतलब समझाया, बट इस तरीके के क्वेश्चंस होते हैं जहाँ पे जो अदर ऑप्शंस जो होते हैं, जो इनकरेक्ट ऑप्शंस होते हैं जीके में, वो भी अपने साथ एक सवाल कैरी करते हैं, उनका भी एक इनर मीनिंग और महत्व होता है, जो कि आपको समझना जरूरी है, बिकॉज वो आपकी नॉलेज एडिशन होगी। और फिर आप जितना जितना मतलब जितना ज्यादा से ज्यादा कवर करेंगे, बिकॉज जीके की कोई सीमा नहीं है और न ही पूछने वालों की सीमा है, चाहे आप क्लैट का एग्जाम लें या आप यूपीएससी लें, तो वहां कोई सीमा नहीं है। तो आप जितना ज्यादा नॉलेज इकट्ठी कर पाएंगे उतना बेटर है।
Yes, Suviji, thank you so much for putting this thing in a proper way in order to have a better understanding of the GK. Now, Suviji, we are having so many questions coming from our student on YouTube. I'd like you to ask you about these questions. So the first question that we are having coming from the student called Abhishek. Thank you so much, Abhishek, for asking the question. Here it comes. He's saying ki, why law career is exciting. I would like you to summarize in a short way, like why the law career is exciting. Suviji.
See, after having practiced law for 7 years and still practicing, I would first like to be modest enough to say that, Abhishek, the grass is always greener on the other side. और वो एक चीज लगती है कि बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, बट आप जब उसको रोज करते हो तो वो हो सकता है वो एक मोनोटोनस बन जाए, मोनोटोनस एक अप्रोच बन जाए। बट बाहर से इसलिए इंटरेस्टिंग लगता है बिकॉज इट्स वेरी चैलेंजिंग एंड इट्स वेरी डायनामिक इन द सेंस दैट टुडे you are dealing with one such area of law, Companies Act for that matter. Tomorrow you are working on Arbitration Act, or maybe some other law or some other set of rules you are working on. So the dynamic nature of the profession makes it very interesting, because although if we talk about litigation, for example, litigation is where you present the case in front of a judge in the court of law and you litigate, basically आप बहस करते हैं। तो वहां पे आप अगर सिविल मैटर्स करते हैं तो सिविल मैटर्स में बहुत सारी चीजें आ जाती हैं। आपके कमर्शियल डिस्प्यूट्स आ जाते हैं, आपके कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल डिस्प्यूट्स आ जाते हैं, आपके लेबर डिस्प्यूट्स आ जाते हैं, तो सर्विस मैटर्स आ जाते हैं। तो इस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल लॉ एक अदर एरिया है, बट वो भी सिविल में ही है। तो उससे क्या है, जो डायनामिक्स हैं वो एकदम चेंज हो जाती हैं, तो आदमी का इंटरेस्ट बना रहता है। बट लाइक आई सेड, when you have done when you're doing it, it is not that interesting, but it keeps you going because it has a dynamic nature. Second of all, मैं एक चीज पॉइंट आउट करना चाहूंगा यहाँ पे लोगों को, that people do say that कि एक्सपर्टीज कैसे एक फील्ड में या एक अगर लॉ की बात करें तो हम कैसे उसमें हासिल कर सकते हैं। मेरे हिसाब से जो एक्सपीरियंस और एक्सपर्टीज है वो तभी हो सकती है जब आप एक चीज को या एक टाइप ऑफ मैटर्स को इतनी बार कर लें कि वो मोनोटनी के लेवल तक आ जाए। मोनोटनी मतलब वो एक बहुत ही आपके लिए यूजुअल सी चीज हो जाए और आपके लिए बहुत ही बोरिंग चीज हो जाए कि आप डेली वही कर रहे हैं या रेगुलरली वही कर रहे हैं। और जब तक आपको वो मोनोटनी का और वो जो एक लगेगा कि आप रोजाना सालों से वही कर रहे हैं, तब तक आपको वो एक्सपीरियंस या एक्सपर्टीज आप नहीं बोल सकते कि आपको आ गई। बिकॉज और लॉ में तो वो खास करके काफी सालों बाद आती है, बिकॉज लॉ कीप्स ऑन चेंजिंग। It is based on the doctrine of precedent, which is that the higher court or the rulings of the higher court or the highest court, which is Supreme Court, अगर वो चेंज हो जाती हैं तो पूरा सिनारियो चेंज हो जाता है। तो ये डायनामिज्म जो है उसमें वो चेंज होती रहती है, एंड दैट इज व्हाई वी नीड टू बी अपडेटेड।
Okay, so Suviji, there's one more question that we are coming from our student, the same student called Abhishek. He's saying कि कितना टाइम होना चाहिए ideal for the preparation. I believe 2 or 3 months is more than sufficient to prepare for the CLAT, right?
देखिए अमित जी, मैं यहाँ पे ये बोलूंगा कि इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन इंडिविजुअल टू इंडिविजुअल, how well versed he is with these subjects, because like I said in the beginning, that these subjects, although English and mathematics and
Mhm.
GK to a certain extent, is
Mhm.
also taught in our schools.
Mhm.
But the mathematics here, which we are talking about, is not, you know, mathematics which is taught in the high school or,
Mhm.
10+2. It is basic mathematics.
Mhm.
इंग्लिश भी कॉम्प्रिहेंशन के ऊपर बेस्ड होती है, और जीके आपकी जैसे हमने बात करी अभी
हाँ,
कि उसमें कुछ भी पूछ सकते हैं, तो इट इज मोर डिपेंडेंट अपॉन एन इंडिविजुअल कि उसको कितना टाइम लगता है, और करने में आप उसको 1 महीने में कर सकते हैं, बट इट ऑल डिपेंड्स कि आप कितना रिटेन कर पाए अपने जहन में
Mhm.
और कितना आप उसको डिलीवर कर पाए.
नहीं, तो सुबीर जी, in order to summarize this whole thing about this question, I like to mention this thing to Abhishek. कि अभिषेक, अगर आपके पास प्रॉपर स्ट्रेटजी है एंड यू आर फॉलोइंग द all the proper routine, let's say you are having a habit of cultivating like going through the newspaper on daily basis and having a command over the English, you are going through the English article on daily basis, आप जीके के लिए कंटिन्यूस बेसिस पे पढ़ाई कर रहे हैं और आप क्वांट के लिए OLR के लिए आप कंटिन्यूस क्वेश्चन एंड पेपर को सॉल्व कर रहे हैं, तो इट्स नॉट अ मैटर ऑफ टाइम, आप इसको क्रैक कर सकते हैं विद इन अ पीरियड ऑफ 3 to 4 months. You just need a proper guidance, you need to have a proper institution in order to who could help you out with the proper strategy thing. So I hope Abhishek that would have helped you for the question that you asked. So Subir ji, I like to ask you the one last question before summarizing this whole thing up, कि जो आपका जो कॉलेज था NLU भोपाल, राइट, वो बाकी
जी.
NLU से कैसे डिफरेंट है एंड हाउ इज द कल्चर देयर?
देखिए, बाकी कॉलेजेस के बारे में तो मैं ज्यादा कमेंट कर नहीं पाऊंगा, बिकॉज जितना मैंने बाकी एनुअली को देखा, वो या तो किसी कल्चरल फेस्ट में जाके देखा या किसी स्पोर्ट्स फेस्ट में जाके देखा. बट एज फार एज द लेट्स नॉट restrict this question to only my college. Let's talk about the entire, in a National Law University community, which comprises of 14 or 15 odd colleges. So it gives you, a perspective, a very nice perspective towards law and the profession and the subjects you're taught. And most importantly, it gives you such recognition in the market once you are out after your graduation. So because जैसे मैंने शुरुआत में मेंशन किया, आई एम अ फर्स्ट जनरेशन लॉयर, सो मेरे लिए टू बी आउट ऑफ दैट लॉट, और जिसको बोलते हैं कि जो ऑल्सो रैन काइंड ऑफ एक भीड़ है, उससे निकलने का और उससे एक डिफरेंट दिखने का एक ही एक जरिया था, वो था मेरा कॉलेज.
एग्जैक्टली.
कि आप किस कॉलेज से आए हो और आप किस पर्सपेक्टिव से और किस मतलब नॉलेज होल्ड करके आ रहे हो. तो लाइक आई सेड that NLUs give you a very different perspective towards the profession of law, the study of law, the subject of law. And other than that, since because they are national law schools and they are recognized by top law firms in India and litigating lawyers, then you also get to interact. And I'm not demeaning any college here, not a private one or anything, but the exposure level while you are in graduation is much more than any other college. The exposure with regard to working with as in during your internships in the best law firms in India with the best lawyers in India. सो वहां से जब बंदा एक्सपीरियंस लेके आता है, तो एक डिफरेंट उसका पर्सपेक्टिव होता है और एक डिफरेंट उसकी पहचान होती है. बट हैविंग सेड दैट, like I mentioned in the beginning, that there are a few private universities like Jindal Global Law School, which is doing really great. So हमको आज जो हमारा इंटरेक्शन है उसमें सिर्फ यही स्ट्रेस अपॉन नहीं करना है कि आपका अगर किसी कारणवश फ्लैट में नहीं हुआ, so this is the end of the life for you or end of the world for you. This is not such, because Jindal Global Law School है जो एक LSAT करके एक एग्जाम कराता है, which is legal. I'm forgetting the full form. LSAT उसके एंट्रेंस एग्जाम को बोलते हैं. और वो काफी हमारे जो फैकल्टी है एनएलयूज में, उनसे बोल सकते हैं कि एट पार है या उससे एक कदम आगे ही है। बिकॉज जिंदल ग्लोबल लॉ स्कूल ने क्या किया है, जो अपने यहाँ फैकल्टी रखी है वो काफी यंग फैकल्टी है, वेरी वेरी वेल रेड फैकल्टी, एंड दे आर कीपिंग द पेस with the need of the market. So for example, आज हमारे यहाँ पहले ये होता था कि अगर आप कोर्ट नहीं जाते हो तो आप वकील नहीं हो, बट आज की तारीख में कॉर्पोरेट लॉ भी है, आज की तारीख में पॉलिसी मैटर्स भी हैं, पॉलिसी फ्रेमिंग एंड पॉलिसी ड्राफ्टिंग। सो जो मैं जिंदल ग्लोबल लॉ स्कूल की बात कर रहा हूँ, वहां पे पॉलिसी जो है, पॉलिसी बाय पॉलिसी आई मीन that making of these regulations, these rules, these statutes, or just suggesting ideas to make them better. There is also a field of law which is based on based on policy drafting and policy consulting. So that is one such area where people can make their career.
So Suvir, in order to summarize this whole discussion, I like to say this thing. Okay, I'm pretty confident that this whole conversation that we had with you, right, will definitely help our student to have the clarity about the CLAT, and this will definitely motivate them to choose law as a career, right? So thank
I
you so
am
much.
grateful for you, to you for giving me this opportunity, and I would be great to, I would be kind of, it will be nice to know that if people could get inspired by myself, though I haven't done that much great in life, but whatever experience I could give as a senior, I've tried my best.
Yeah. And Suviji, thank you so much for giving your valuable time. And I'd like to thank you to our viewers as well, who had shared the question and joined us on this discussion. Thank you so much, Akansa, for joining us. Thank you so much, Sangam, Sana, and others. And Ramjan, thank you so much for joining us. So this is all for today. I'll see you on the another episode of Safalta Talk. Till then, keep learning and don't forget to subscribe our channel.